Most people think World War II aircraft were all rivets, propellers, and brute force, but hiding in the 1940s were machines that look like they time-traveled from 2050. Sharp lines, tailless wings, jets, rockets, and layouts that wouldn't look out of place in a next-gen hangar. Before we dive in, quick one, tap like and subscribe so you don't miss the next countdown. This is Vintage Aviation, and today we're counting down 10 WWII aircraft that look like they're from 2050. And I want you to comment while you watch. Which WWII aircraft looks the most like it belongs in 2050? Drop your pick with the number 10 through 1 and tell me why. 10 WWII aircraft that look like they are from 2050. Let's start at number 10 and work our way to the aircraft that still feels unreal even today. 10. Bell P-59 Aerocomet, USA. At first glance, the Bell P-59 Aerocomet doesn't scream future until you remember what everyone else was flying when it arrived. Big piston engines, spinning propellers, and the constant fight against torque and drag. The P-59's futuristic vibe comes from one simple fact. It's an American jet during WWII. Twin engines buried in the fuselage, clean lines, and that unmistakable no-prop profile. Why does it feel like 2050? Because it represents the moment aviation switches timelines, from mechanical airflow wrestling to jet-age speed thinking. Even if its performance didn't dominate the war, the shape alone hints at what's coming. Sleeker noses, internal power plants, and the start of the jet silhouette that would define modern combat aviation. But there's a twist, because this is the story of many future aircraft of the 1940s. The technology arrived before the world was ready to exploit it fully. Early jets faced limitations in thrust, reliability, and range. The P-59 became a stepping stone, less a battlefield legend, more a door that got kicked open for everything that followed. And if 10 is the first hint, 9 is where the future starts to look truly aggressive. 9. Heinkel He-162, Volksjäger, Germany. The Heinkel He-162 looks like something from a dystopian sci-fi film. Compact, fast, and built around a design choice that still looks radical. The jet engine perched on top of the fuselage like a jetpack strapped to a fighter. That top-mounted engine instantly makes the aircraft feel post-whoa, even post-present. It's visually different from the clean, conventional jet integration we expect, more like a rapid prototype from a future conflict where speed of manufacturing matters as much as elegance. From a 2050 perspective, the He-162 feels like an early cousin of the build it fast, field it now philosophy, a wartime crash program trying to mass-produce jet power under pressure. Here's what really sells the futuristic look. Short-swept wings compared to earlier designs, a tight, compact fuselage focused on speed, a profile that looks like it was optimized by necessity, not tradition. And the downside, the part that echoes so many experimental, ahead-of-their-time machines, was that pushing cutting-edge ideas into rushed production creates harsh trade-offs, training demands, reliability issues, and operational limits. Still, visually, the He-162 absolutely looks like it's from a future timeline where jets are everywhere and prop fighters are ancient history. Now we're stepping into something even more 2050, because 8 abandons the old idea of what a fighter even needs to look like. 8. Horten Ho 229, Germany. If you showed the Horten Ho 229 to someone who doesn't know history, they'd probably guess it's a modern stealth aircraft concept, maybe a prototype for a next-gen drone bomber, because it's a flying wing. No traditional tail, no familiar fuselage shape, just a smooth, blended triangle of intent, designed to slice through the air like a shadow. This is where the 2050 look becomes undeniable. The Ho 229 resembles modern stealth thinking because flying wings naturally reduce drag and can reduce the number of surfaces that reflect radar. And even if WWII's radar and stealth theory weren't the same as today's world, and the visual language overlaps so strongly that it feels like a preview of aircraft that wouldn't arrive in mainstream consciousness until decades later. From the ground, it looks like it shouldn't exist in the 1940s. In the air, it looks like a futuristic omen. And the story behind it fits the theme perfectly. Wartime urgency driving designers to break the rules and chase speed and performance through radical shapes. But radical shapes bring radical challenges. stability, control, manufacturing complexity, and the reality that some designs are too advanced for the tools and time available. Still, the Ho-229 remains one of the most 2050 silhouettes ever born out of WWII, an aircraft that looks like it belongs on a secret runway under floodlights, not a black and white newsreel. And here's the thing, the next aircraft on our list is even more extreme, because it doesn't just look futuristic, it behaves like the future. 7. Arado R-234, Blitz, Germany. If you told someone the Arado R-234 was a Cold War jet bomber prototype, they'd believe you. Because everything about it looks modern. A streamlined fuselage, a fighter-like cockpit, and twin jet engines mounted cleanly under the wings, an arrangement that became iconic for later jet aircraft. What makes it feel like it's from 2050 is the overall systems vibe. It doesn't look like a converted prop plane. It looks purpose-built for speed, altitude, and the kind of rapid strike thinking we associate with modern air forces. The R-234's silhouette screams, "I'm here to outrun you, not outturn you, not outclimb you, just outrun your entire era." And that's what makes it futuristic, because it represents a strategic shift. Once jets arrive, the battlefield changes, interception becomes harder, timelines compress, the sky gets faster. But here's the WWII reality check. Early jets were still early. Fuel burn, reliability, and maintenance were constant constraints. And the R-234 was operating in an environment where the infrastructure, logistics, and trained support crews weren't always ready for something this advanced. Still, purely on looks, the R-234 could taxi onto a modern runway, and people would only start questioning it when they noticed the markings. And if 7 looks like the future of jet bombing, 6 looks like the future of speed itself, because it wasn't a jet. It was a rocket. 6. Messerschmitt, Me-163, Comet, Germany. The Me-163 Comet looks like a sci-fi interceptor from a world where air combat lasts seconds. Small wings, compact body, a shape that feels more like a guided projectile than a traditional fighter. And the reason it screams 2050 is simple. Rocket power. Not a prop, not even a jet. A rocket engine, built to climb like a meteor and meet high-altitude targets with terrifying urgency. This is the kind of concept you'd expect from a future battlefield. Extreme acceleration. Short, violent engagements, a machine optimized for a single job, get up fast, strike fast, and disappear. The Comet's design language matches modern interceptor thinking, like a high-performance point defense tool rather than a classic dogfighter. In a way, it's closer to a manned missile than an aircraft. But the futuristic dream came with brutal trade-offs, the part of the story that's common to almost every ahead-of-its-time WWII machine. The Comet demanded dangerous fuel, intense handling discipline, and it had a combat profile that could turn deadly even without an enemy nearby. After the rocket burn, it became a glider, meaning the pilot went from fastest thing in the sky to silent target on the way down. So yes, it looks like 2050, but it also proves something important. The future isn't just about speed, it's about control, safety, and sustainability, and those were still being invented. Now for 5, an aircraft that looks like the normal jet future finally stabilized, a true fighter silhouette that the modern world would recognize instantly. 5. Gloster Meteor, United Kingdom. The Gloster Meteor is one of those aircraft that doesn't need explanation to feel futuristic, because it looks like what we now consider the standard early jet fighter layout. 2 jets, clean wings, a sleek body that feels like it belongs to the post-war world, except it's still WWII. From a 2050 perspective, what makes the Meteor special isn't just that it's a jet. It's that it feels like the jet age has arrived with confidence. The design reads as practical and scalable, not experimental and fragile. And visually, it has that modern form factor energy. Smooth lines instead of chunky piston engine proportions, engine nacelles that look like they were designed around airflow, not retrofitted. A stance on the ground that says, this is what fighters will become. The Meteor also represents something key to our theme. The moment the future stops being a weird prototype and starts being a repeatable system. That's a very 2050 idea. Technology that's not just impressive, but dependable enough to become the new baseline. Of course, early jets still wrestled with range, engine life, and rapid advancement, meaning even the Meteor's future would soon be overtaken by newer generations. That's the paradox of breakthrough eras. The moment you arrive, The next arrival is already on its way. And now we're entering the top 4, where the shapes start getting so bold they feel like they were drawn by a modern aerospace lab, not a WWII drafting table. Before we continue, quick reminder, comment your pick so far. Which one looks most like 2050, 7, 6, or 5? 4. Junkers Ju 287, Germany. If there's one WWII aircraft that looks like it was designed by a 21st century wind tunnel, it's the Junkers Ju 287, because it has forward-swept wings. Even today, forward-swept wings feel futuristic, like something you'd see on a secret test range. The reason is simple. The shape breaks our instincts. Most aircraft we picture have wings that sweep backward, especially jets. But the Ju 287 flips the idea and creates a silhouette that looks wrong in a way that feels advanced. So why does it look like 2050? Because forward-swept wings are the kind of configuration you expect from an era of computational aerodynamics, high-performance control systems, materials engineered to resist twisting forces. In other words, it looks like something that would belong to a world with fly-by-wire computers and advanced composites. Yet here it is, in a WWII context, wearing a shape that screams prototype. And that's the key. The Ju 287 is not just a plane with weird wings. It's the symbol of designers trying to escape old limitations and chase performance through geometry. But here's the downside. What held many futuristic WWII designs back? Forward-swept wings can create serious structural problems. Under high loads, the wings want to twist. Managing that in a reliable, mass-producible way is difficult, even in later decades. And in WWII conditions, it becomes a huge engineering hill to climb. So the Ju 287 becomes a 2050 aircraft, not because it dominated combat, but because it represents a kind of thinking that feels modern. What if we redesign the rules? And now, 3 is pure science fiction, because this next one doesn't just look futuristic, it launches like the future. 3. Bachamba 349, Natter, Germany. The Bachamba 349 Natter looks less like an airplane and more like an early version of a vertical launch interceptor, something you'd expect in 2050 when the battlefield is measured in seconds and threats appear without warning. Because this thing was designed to launch vertically. Let that land for a moment. While most of WWII aviation is runways, takeoff rolls, and prop wash, the Natter's concept feels like it belongs to an era of missiles, drones, and rapid response air defense systems. Its 2050 vibe comes from 3 futuristic ideas packed into one plan. Point defense thinking. This wasn't meant to roam the skies like a classic fighter. It was meant to respond fast, like a defensive system protecting a high-value area. Rocket-driven intercept profile. Get up fast, intercept fast, and treat the mission like a sprint rather than a patrol. A concept that feels eerily modern. Disposable or modular mission logic. Not one aircraft, many missions, but one mission, optimized hardware. Now, the reality of the era was harsh. The Natter concept was extremely challenging for pilots and technology at the time. The guidance, the control stability, the human factors, everything about it sits on the edge of what the 1940s could realistically execute. But that's exactly why it feels like 2050. Because if you described it without the date, it would sound like a modern concept pitch. Vertical launch, rocket climb, rapid intercept, minimal runway dependence. That's a future doctrine, delivered decades early. Quick check-in. Which one feels more like 2050 to you? 4. Ju 287 or 3. Natter? Comment your answer with the number and the reason. I'm watching for the most convincing argument. On 2. Curtiss-Wright XP-55 Ascender, USA. If you've ever looked at modern fighters and thought, that nose feels intentional, you're picking up on a design philosophy that WWII engineers were already flirting with. The Curtiss-Wright XP-55 Ascender looks futuristic because it flips the classic WWII fighter layout on its head. Canards up front, small forewings, a pusher propeller at the back, a clean, unobstructed nose that looks like it's meant for sensors and fire control systems. Even if the XP-55 isn't a jet, it feels like 2050 because the airframe looks like it's trying to become a modern platform, one where the front of the aircraft is quiet and aerodynamically clean, and the propulsion system is moved rearward. That layout creates a silhouette that many people associate with advanced prototypes, even today. Canards show up in later high-performance aircraft because they can help with lift and maneuver control at certain conditions, and visually they scream, "This isn't a normal airplane." Why it looks like it's from 2050. The XP-55's future energy comes from its profile and its intent. 1. The sensor nose look. With no big engine block in front, the nose becomes this sleek wedge, exactly the place where future aircraft carry radars, cameras, targeting systems, and electronics. W2 didn't have today's sensor suites, but the shape language aligns perfectly with what we expect from advanced aircraft. 2. The canard configuration. Canards make the aircraft look like it's been engineered by a modern design office that's willing to break tradition. Whether it's a fighter, drone, or experimental testbed, canards instantly read as next-gen. 3. The rear-mounted propulsion idea. The pusher design also feels futuristic because it resembles later concepts where the aircraft is organized around airflow management, like designing the plane around the air, not just bolting components onto a standard template. The trade-offs. Why the future didn't fully arrive, yet. Now here's the pattern we've seen throughout this countdown. Many W2 aircraft looked like the future, but the technology, training, and operating environment weren't always ready to support the concept. With unusual layouts like the XP-55, you can run into challenges involving stability and handling at the edges of the flight envelope, visibility, and pilot workload. The reality that different doesn't always mean better under wartime constraints. So the XP-55 becomes one of those legendary what-if machines, an aircraft that looks like it belongs in a 2050 prototype hangar, even though it lived in an era of piston engines and metal skin. And now, one is the most 2050-looking W2 aircraft on this entire list, because its shape resembles a modern Canard interceptor so closely that it feels like it skipped decades of evolution. Before we reveal it, comment this. So far, which aircraft looks the most like it's from 2050? Drop your pick and defend it. 1. Kyushu J7W1 Shinden, Japan. Meet the Kyushu J7W1 Shinden, an interceptor concept so visually modern that it looks like it should be escorted by drones and guided by a helmet-mounted display. The Shinden's 2050 look hits you immediately because it breaks WWII expectations in 3 bold ways. 1. Canards up front. Those forward control surfaces make the aircraft look like a modern high-performance design, something you'd expect on advanced fighters, experimental jets, or next-gen UAV platforms. Canards don't just say different, they say engineered. They visually communicate that this aircraft was trying to solve performance through configuration, not tradition. 2. Pusher prop at the rear. Instead of the classic WWII's nose prop silhouette, the Shinden pushes the propeller to the back. That instantly gives it a future aircraft vibe because the front becomes clean, like it was built to house sensors, a large cannon package, or a radar system. In modern terms, it reads like a systems nose, the kind of space where you'd expect advanced avionics to live. 3. A sharp interceptor-focused profile. Everything about the Shinden feels optimized for one job: climb fast and stop incoming threats. That's a very modern, almost 2050-style concept, an aircraft designed around mission logic rather than general-purpose dogfighting. And that's the reason it belongs at 1. The Shinden doesn't look like a WWII plane that got a little weird. It looks like a future-era aircraft that accidentally landed in the 1940s. Why it feels like 2050, the mini-story. In a future context, you'd describe a platform like this as a rapid response interceptor with a clean forward fuselage, forward control authority, and rear propulsion to maximize front-end capability. That's modern aerospace language. It's the kind of thinking you associate with late-generation fighters and cutting-edge prototypes, where the aircraft is a flying system, not just an engine with wings. The trade-offs, why the future was hard to field. But like many WWII designs that look like tomorrow, the Shinden faced the reality of its time. Unusual layouts introduce complexity, handling characteristics, pilot workload, cooling and airflow challenges, and the simple fact that wartime resources and testing time were limited. That doesn't make it any less futuristic. It actually makes it more on theme, because it shows what happens when designers sprint toward the future faster than the era can support. If 2050 had a silhouette, the Shinden would be in the running. Here's our full countdown. 10 WWII aircraft that look like they're from 2050. 10 Bell P-59 Air Comet. 9 Heinkel He 162. 8 Horton Ho 229. 7 Arado R 234. 6 Messerschmitt Me 163 Comet. 5 Gloucester Meteor. 4 Junkers Ju 287. 3 Bachenbach 349 Natter. 2 Curtiss Wright XP-55 Ascender. 1 Kyushu J7W1 Shinden. Now it's your turn. Comment this exact phrase with your pick. 2050 certified. Fill in the number, and tell me what detail makes it feel futuristic. The shape, the engine concept, or the mission idea. If you enjoyed this countdown, like the video, subscribe, and turn on notifications, because Vintage Aviation is dropping more history that looks like the future lists very soon. And if you want to follow up, tell me in the comments. Should the next video be WWII prototypes that were too advanced to deploy, or Cold War aircraft that still look futuristic today?